What's going on, everybody? It's TheZachMichael here. Today we're making a beat using acoustic drums. Now this is just a sound that I make sometimes, and first we're gonna make the melody, and then we're gonna go ahead and use some of my acoustic drum kits to just kind of create a more live drum feel. I'm gonna kind of show you some of my techniques to make samples feel live and how to make one shots kind of come alive, and also just like patterns that I use a lot when I do acoustic live sounding drums and that sort of thing. But first I just went into Electra X, one of my banks, pulled up this like little pad, and we're honestly just gonna pull in a chord progression here. So I think I'm just gonna grab like a minor chord progression in the scale of D minor, and we'll just like literally just duplicate that over. Very simple, nothing crazy. And I'm just gonna put a ghost note up here just so I know it's in D minor, just to like remind me for later sake or other sounds. And we're gonna kind of change up the chords a bit by pitching these notes up. So on the first two I pitched up the middle section of the triad, but on the last one I didn't want to do that because if I pitch up the middle one it's just 3 Ds the whole way through, and if I do this it kind of gives a little bit more variation to the top notes. So that's kind of why I did that. And we're gonna do like 145 BPM. Just kind of turn that down a bit. Now we're gonna load up Electra X again and just try to find like another sound to kind of build this out a bit more. And so we're gonna go into my banks, of course, and try to find something that works. I use something like this. Just kind of create a little melody with it. Might do something like that. And then we're just going to randomize the velocities. We're just going to add a note there. And on this, I'm going to be adding this Trance Gate plugin. This is a plugin I use a lot, and it kind of just gives this now some rhythm. But we're going to go ahead and process it a little differently. I want to slow down the speed of it, and we might find like a better option. I think we're going to use that one. And then I just like to turn down the mix level a little bit. I like that. Let's go ahead and try to find like one more sound to kind of build the melody out. I want to leave a lot of room because I do want the acoustic drums to be a bit more of a centerpiece. But we do need at least one more sound. Something like this. We're just going to kind of create a little plucky pattern. And on that, I'm just going to throw some reverb. So this is one of my favorite reverbs here that's loading up. I'm just going to kind of tweak the settings. Just like that. And boom, we kind of have a sick sounding melody. It's pretty simple, but it really is all I need. Like, it's got enough character. We're going to let the drums shine. So all the drums we're going to be using are from my rock drum kits. My rock drum kits don't only work for rock. I mean, they're just acoustic drums, so you can really use them for any genre. But we're going to try to find like a good snare. And I'm looking for something with some character and like some punch. Something like this. I kind of like using a snare that's just got like a lot of texture to it. And we're just going to put this on there. You know, like how you would usually a snare. And I like to layer my snare drums. I feel like when you're doing acoustic stuff, part of the secret is just kind of layering. And what we're going to do to kind of make this a bit unique is on these snares here, I actually lowered the velocity on just this layer. So it doesn't hit as hard on the second and the fourth snare. Again, part of making stuff sound live and sound real is messing with velocities and messing with the different layers. And so that's why I'm kind of doing that sort of thing. We're going to boost this kick a little bit, just make it hit a little harder. And we might pitch it down too. Don't ever feel like you have to use a pitch of a sound in a drum kit. Sometimes changing the pitch is the way to make it sound better or hit better, just different sort of things. And with this one here, I like pitching it down. We got a little pattern there I'm happy with. I'm gonna try to find like a little perk. Something like that. Just kind of have the little perk in the background. I'm gonna turn that down. So let's go on to hi-hats. Alright, we're gonna take this Hilton hi-hat, put that on track 9, and I'm gonna go ahead and fill 8 steps. And just kind of tweak velocities so it sounds a bit more real. Now these hi-hats are kind of slow, but I like to layer my hi-hats. When you're doing live stuff, while on like a real drum set, you technically only have like a limited number of hi-hats, obviously. Because I'm creating a DAW, I don't really have the same limitations that a real drum set would. So I'm gonna have a second pattern that's just playing like this, like every other note with the velocity changes. And I kind of let those two like bounce off each other a bit, as you can see like when I mute them. And then we're also going to just have a 2-step one going as well, but we're going to heavily turn down the second one. And then we just kind of duplicate this over by clicking Control B. So now we have 3 hi-hats going at once. And we're just going to kind of tweak the original pattern, add this little second hit there. At the end of the pattern, just like a resolve. And that's a big thing to think about when you're doing stuff with live drums, but honestly just like anything music related in general. Try to have your patterns resolve, which is how they end. Like most of the time when you make things resolve differently like this, it kind of helps signify a listener like, hey, we're going to the next section, we're going to the next bars, if that makes sense. And the next thing I'm going to do is find like a nice clap. I like to have a section where the snare drum pops out, and we use like a clap instead. So if I mute the snares, this is what it'll be like. And we're going to try to find a snare that works, or a clap that works. Something like that. And I also do want to have a section that's maybe not as acoustic. And we're just going to mute these drums for a second. Just kind of have like a little rim shot bounce going on. Like this. Nothing too crazy, but just to kind of have some more change-ups in the beat. And lastly, I'm going to try to add one more layer to the melody. So we're going to go to Arcade and try to load something up. We're in the scale of D minor, so we're going to make sure we pick something that is in the scale of D minor. And I don't really know what sort of bank we should go into, so we're just going to kind of open something. I think we're going to go into Vintage Synths, and maybe we'll find something in here. I'm just going to download a random one and kind of just play it out and see if anything works. I like that. But we're going to pitch it up. Like that. Then I'm just going to EQ out a little bit of the top. A little filter. And we're going to throw some reverb on it. And I think that just built the whole track out a bit more. Kind of filled in some space. And also just made a little bit more of an interesting layer to the melody as well. So now we have all those layers. We're just going to kind of put our drums in like this. And sometimes even with acoustic drums, I'll still layer in an 808 under the kicks and stuff if I want to do something that's like still like rap, but also has that like acoustic sound. But with this beat here, I don't really think that's what I want to do. So we're not going to do it with this one. We're just going to have a 4-bar intro, and then my tag, which we'll have there, and we'll just route that.
Get the camera, Zach.
And we're gonna kind of have a little intro section like that. We're gonna throw this dropper effect that I like using, and we're gonna cut the last of those out. First half of the hook will be this. Second half will be that. Like I'm changing up the melodies up top a little bit, but nothing too crazy. And then into the verse, and we're going to kind of have our hi-hats and clap kind of run wild for a little bit here with a little section like this. And what we're going to do to make it a little bit more interesting is we're going to actually cut this 2 bars in the hi-hat out. So it's going to go from being like the fast ones just to the slow ones, and then back to the fast ones again. it's just a way to create interest and keep things changing up throughout the track, which as I'm arranging is definitely a focus point for me, is trying to make sure things are constantly changing and evolving. And that's going to be just like that. And then before we go ahead and duplicate all this over, I'm going to go ahead and add this little riser here from one of my kits. And we're just going to kind of put that in certain sections. So we're going to put one before this section, one after it, one at the end of the hook, and one there. And then I'm just going to duplicate it. But first I accidentally deleted those. And then we're just going to duplicate this over. And then now we have the outro, which we're going to go ahead and put some of the melodies back in. We're going to tweak it a bit. So just like that. We're going to put all those there. And then we're just going to create a volume automation. And that's the outro. And just like that, we kind of created a track that uses acoustic sounding drums. So if you guys enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, check out TheZachMichael.net if you like these acoustic drum sounds, and also the Electro X presets, because I made those as well. Thanks for watching. Head on over to ElizabethRecords.net if you'd like to support me. You can purchase VST expansion banks, drum kits, loop kits, and MIDI kits that'll level up your production there.